Hello, everyone. Very good evening to all of you. My name is Anuja. I am from Supergrads, and today we will be talking about a very interesting topic which is extremely relevant, as you can see from the topic itself. These are the 10 tips which I will be sharing with you in the next 10 minutes, and they will take your score 10 marks up, at least. So to say, they have the potential of doing so if you follow these tips. So stay tuned if you'd like to know more about the topic and do follow closely. Of course, since this discussion is about your English preparation, so whatever exam you're preparing for, these are applicable in the English section particularly, but then you'd realize that you can also use them in other sections. So let's get started with the very first tip that I have for you. Now, you can also read what I have on my slide, or you could just sit back, relax, and listen to what I'm saying. So, tip number one is about creating an atmosphere of English learning at your home around you, whether or not you have a partner. If even if you're just alone, this would work. And what is this tip number one? It says engage in one activity every day, and that activity has to be in English. So it could be anything. It could be watching a video, maybe from a native speaker is preferable, because who better than a person whose mother tongue is English? Then I mean that guy is the best to teach us, right? So it could be a video, maybe a TED talk that you're listening on a topic that interests you, or it could be tuning into BBC Radio and listening to a talk today or a podcast. Maybe it could be reading few pages of a novel. It could be solving some questions. Just one activity per day, which is in English. So these are the suggestions. Read a magazine, newspaper, blog, article, have a conversation in English with somebody if you can, because this is what actually makes the language real to you. You're using the language, and that's how you can remember it. That's how you can make the most of your learning experience. So do follow it. I would go as far as to say, this is equally important. This is as important as solving questions. Because somebody who's just solving questions and not actually using the language is going to make very slow progress. But somebody who is doing both the parts, trying to use the language, read in it, write in it, speak the language, and also solving questions, is really going to be the winner here. So make sure you do follow tip number one. Let's talk about tip number two. Know the errors you are likely to find. So, see, I guess this is the best way to be prepared. You already have an idea of what kind of errors you can expect. For example, in grammar section, there are always certain errors which we can be sure of finding. Maybe some rules related to subject-verb agreement, some imparallel constructions which we have to create in a parallel way, some common preposition collocations. Similarly, in vocabulary, you have some common pairs of confusables, some idioms which are often asked. So why don't we know these beforehand, so that when we go and solve the paper, we already have an idea of what could possibly they ask, right? So know the errors you're likely to find. For example, there's a short list, and the keyword here is short. There are not too many, so don't be deterred already. There's a short list of grammatical and construction errors that occur in most sentence correction questions. These same errors are also used to create most of the wrong answers. Yes, you're getting inside the mind of the question creator. So learn to recognize common errors based on rules such as misplaced modifiers, parallel conversation, whatever you learn in your grammar classes, right? But please be one step ahead. Already try to guess what they can ask. Okay, that's tip number two, and that will make you a smarter student. Let's talk about tip number three. To do your best, it's important not only to take practice tests regularly, of course, you need to take mocks, that is important, but to simulate the actual conditions of the test. When I say simulate the actual conditions of the test, what exactly do I mean? I mean sit for the exact duration. So, for example, your test is of 2 hours, but what you are doing right now is solving it in 4 parts. So you take sectional test, but you never take a complete mock. This is going to be disastrous. You need to ensure that you perform in the exact same condition which you will be getting that day. If your example For example, if your exam is in 10 to 12 slot, morning slot, try to sit in the same slot every day to take your mock, so that even your body clock is prepared for that would be the best. Okay, so simulate the actual conditions of the test as best as you can. This will allow you to feel more comfortable, because it would be just another thing for you. You do it every day. You just go that day as well and do it, right? You'll feel less panicked. So, this is a very important tip. This is less a tip about preparation strategy, this is more about paper handling. Tip number four is actually about preparation. It says develop skills of each type of question in reading. Now, there are various types of question. For example, if I talk about reading, there are reading comprehension passages, there are parajumbles, there are para completion, there is summary making, there is also odd sentence, finding out the odd sentence. So you have these varieties. And each of these has to be approached with a slightly different mindset. You have to apply slightly different strategies. So please ensure that you know all the question types and you know how to deal with them. Because that day, we do not want any surprises now, do we? Test tip number five is to learn the great art of skimming and scanning. I guess, needless to say, you need to read a lot while taking the exam and also while preparing. You need to read a lot. And if you can learn to skim and scan, it will not only make you faster, but maybe more efficient as well. So, how do we do that? When we want to skim, it's not that we want to skip certain part, we just want to be more efficient. So, we pay special attention to the beginning and the ending and the beginning of every paragraph. That is where most important ideas are. So we definitely read the first part of every paragraph, that's the topic sentence. We read the conclusion, which is mostly at the end, and we try to get a general idea of what this text is all about. For example, a question is asking me the meaning of a particular word, then I would learn the art of scanning. I would just scan the whole passage and look for that particular word or phrase, and that can fasten my process, right? So do practice it on a regular basis so that you can do it effortlessly on the D-Day. Tip number six, note down expressions that may be used in several academic contexts. This is specifically important for people who are struggling with vocabulary and they feel, oh God, there is such a vast list. How do I even cram my brain with it? So, what you need to do is learn terms with context. So, you come across a word, don't just go for the meaning. Try to understand the entire story. Try to understand the usage. Where will I use it? Do I say it to a teacher? Do I use it at home? Where will this word fit? Because this is a quick trick that most new learners adopt. They record phrases instead of individual words. So they don't just remember the word, they remember the entire phrase, the entire collocation, and they remember the situation. Anytime the similar situation comes up, they just go right ahead and use the same set of words. And guess what? They're right most of the times. So, this is the way to learn vocabulary, improve your word power. Don't just go for a word, don't make it a boring, cramming task. Understand the context, understand the usage, go for, give yourself more things to work with. And of course, dictionary is your friend. If you do not want to use a proper Oxford dictionary, maybe go for websites like vocabulary.com, but understand the word first and then remember it. Okay? Let's move on to tip number seven. Set achievable goals, but always aim for more. You need to keep pushing yourself. You need to keep pushing the envelope, if I go the idiomatic way. You have to set achievable goals because you don't want to be depressed. For example, you decided that I'm going to read continuously for 5 hours today, and you just could not concentrate. Now you disappointed yourself because your goal was maybe a bit too impractical for you. Set achievable goals, but always try to push the limits. So maybe today you set at a stretch for, let's say, 60 minutes. Now, after a week, your aim should be to take it to 90 minutes. That is how you will constantly keep trying to outdo yourself. If you get burned out, take a day off. That's a phrasal verb that I'm using here. If you get too tired, don't quit, take a break. Okay. Sometimes we get so frustrated and we meet a roadblock and we feel, oh God, there's no progress. What do I do? It's not for me. Take a day off. Just relax. Do something that you enjoy and then come back to it again. Believe me, you'll find it more achievable. Tip number 8, the devil is in the detail. Pay attention to what you learn. I think statistics are there and they tell us that people who improve are the people who pay attention to small things. The small things are the biggest things. So please pay attention to details. Do not say that, okay, yeah, I know the answer is B, but why? Why have we preferred option B to C? What is the difference between B and C? Please compare those two, go in the nuances, go in the details, and that's when you will know your mistakes and you will eventually improve. So the devil is in the detail. Remember that. Time for the penalty tip for today, which is when you review your practice test. Now, first of all, how many of you review your marks? If you don't, then you're making a blunder. After taking a mock, you must review it, you must analyze it. And what do? You revisit the situations that left you feeling uncertain and forced you to waste time. I'm sure that happened with each one of you. There were certain questions, certain options. We were thinking too much about it and we wasted a lot of time. We felt sort of stuck. And that's a bad feeling. We don't want to feel it ever again. We don't want to feel it on the D day. So revisit those questions. Think about the best way to proceed when you encounter that situation again. Maybe you need to read up, brush up some basics because you forgot that, or maybe you need more practice, but develop strategy because that is going to come again and you don't want to suffer again. So you think about the best way and employ that tactic you came up with the next time you take a practice test. So this is not the last mock that you are taking. You're going to take more mocks. So develop your strategy and test them in the next mock itself so that you know what works and what does not. Okay, so this was a very useful tip because it was about analyzing test. And time for the final tip. I hope you're ready. There you go. Embrace your inner skeptic. Your inner skeptic is the voice that doubts, that says, okay, why not A? What is problem with A? That's your inner skeptic. Be skeptical of answer choices. You really need to start seeing things with a pinch of salt. You really need to doubt. And that's when progress begins. You will reason with yourself, you will justify your answers, and you will figure out that, okay, I don't have an answer this time. Maybe I'm just going by gut feeling, and that's wrong. I need to have a reason. So embrace your inner skeptic, be skeptical of answer choices. Look for something that could make the answer wrong because sometimes we are in a hurry and we just read a small part of it and we say, okay, yeah, that is right. But remember, half right is not right. So look for something that can make the answer wrong. Okay. And sometimes we are in such a hurry, we do not read what is written, we read what we think is written. Right? That happens. So just be skeptical, be more careful. And believe me, if you follow these 10 tips, you will definitely find a considerable, measurable improvement in your performance. And I would be the happiest then. So that's the end of today's session. Thank you so much. I hope I could deliver what I promised you in the beginning of this video. Thank you for being here till the end. I hope that was helpful. I promise to be back again with more such useful thoughts. Till then, please take good care of yourself. Bye bye. Good night.